There are places in this world that seem forgotten by time, but few are as hidden, isolated, and misunderstood as Uzbekistan. Once part of the Soviet Union's most secretive military zones, a land where pagan beliefs still echo through Islamic prayers, where the tradition of bride kidnapping casts a dark shadow on love. And in the vast deserts, secrets buried by history are slowly surfacing. This is Uzbekistan, a doubly landlocked country, closed off by borders and beliefs. And what you're about to learn may change how you see Central Asia forever. Welcome to one of the strangest, most misunderstood countries on Earth. Tucked between Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and Afghanistan, Uzbekistan sits like a forgotten relic of ancient empires and collapsed regimes. It's one of only two doubly landlocked countries in the world. To reach the ocean, you'd have to cross at least two other countries. No easy feat in a place known for political tension and geographical extremes. The land is harsh. Endless red deserts like the Kyzylkum dominate the terrain, while isolated mountain ranges slice through the eastern frontier. In some areas, it hasn't rained in months. In others, abandoned Soviet bunkers crumble into dust. Roughly 35 million people live here, but you'd never guess it, because Uzbekistan feels like a place designed to disappear. It was once the heart of the Silk Road, where traders, spies, and emperors crossed paths. But after decades of Soviet secrecy and an authoritarian regime, it became something stranger. A country that outsiders rarely visit. A country where even truth feels regulated. Love in Uzbekistan often arrives dressed as duty. In the sweeping deserts of the Kyzylkum and the narrow alleys of forgotten villages, there's a silence that surrounds desire. Public affection is rare, almost scandalous. Romantic love, the kind sung about in the West, is often a luxury few can afford to dream of. Here, marriage is currency, a transaction. And for some, it doesn't begin with a question, but with a kidnapping. The practice is known as Kyzylkum. A man, sometimes with his friends, abducts a young woman. She is brought to his family home, where pressure begins immediately. She may cry, protest, but in many rural areas, the act is seen as tradition. Once she crosses the threshold, refusing marriage becomes difficult, shameful. Legally, it's forbidden. Culturally, it survives. The government condemns it. Imams preach against it. But in quiet corners, it persists, an echo from a time when women had no voice in their fate. Couples often meet for the first time at their engagement. By the wedding night, expectations are already high. Fertility, modesty, obedience. Sex, meanwhile, is treated like a ghost. Everyone knows it exists, but no one speaks its name. Women are expected to be virgins. Men are expected to dominate. There is no public sex education, and questions are often met with shame or silence. But in Tashkent, things are changing. Beneath the glowing advertisements and neon-lit cafes, a new generation flirts in secret. Dating apps, quietly installed, discreetly checked, offer a hidden path to connection. Young couples meet in parks, sip tea in corners of smoky cafes, and send emojis in place of kisses. Even here, though, screens can't erase centuries of tradition. In this place, modern love is not yet free. It's negotiated. And for many women, choice still feels like rebellion. If you follow the scent of salt and dust far enough into the northwest, you'll find a place the world tried to erase. Karakalpakstan, a name few recognize, even fewer can pronounce. It's a republic within a country, surrounded by desert, and stitched to the dying shores of what was once the Aral Sea. Here live the Karakalpaks, a distinct ethnic group whose name means black hat, but their identity runs deeper than clothing. They are the children of evaporated water, the descendants of drought, of broken Soviet promises, and poisoned earth. Their customs predate Islam. They speak a language that is slowly fading, even among themselves. Their rituals blend ancient Turkic animism with whispered superstitions passed down by grandmothers who no longer hear their own footsteps. In some villages, babies are still named according to dreams, not calendars. In others, mothers hang blue beads and goat skulls over cradles to guard against the evil eye. They bury their dead facing west toward the lost water. Their land is littered with ghost ports, where ships now rest on sand, rusting under a sun that never lets up. As fishermen, many are now scavengers, digging through sand dunes where waves used to crash. Outsiders rarely come. When they do, the Kyzylkum speak softly, almost like they're apologizing for still existing. No tribe here is uncontacted, but some are almost forgotten. And in Kyzylkum, that silence feels intentional, like a culture the world decided not to remember. In Uzbekistan, faith walks beside fear, and the desert is full of whispers. Islam is the official religion. Mosques rise in every town, the call to prayer echoing across marble domes and dust-washed alleys. But beneath this formal layer, older spirits still stir, the kind that don't live in books, but in bones, in water, and in wind. They call it Koz Tagishi, the evil eye, a silent curse. Glance too long. Someone praises your child's beauty, and the next day, she's sick. A friend envies your luck, and suddenly, your business crumbles. So people protect themselves. A string of black beads tied to the baby's wrist, a turquoise amulet sewn into a wedding dress, bread left out overnight, never thrown away because even crumbs have spirit. In kitchens and bazaars, salt is scattered at doorways, whispered over before being swept into corners. In mountain villages, some women still spit over their shoulder to drive away spirits. And in the valleys of the Fergana region, people tie red cloth to trees, an offering for fertility, or protection, or revenge. No one really remembers when it started, only that it still works. But Uzbekistan hides older gods too. Before the Quran, before the Soviet flags, there was Tengrism, sky worship, a belief that the universe had no name, but many eyes. The sky was a god. The mountains were guardians, and death was a return, not an ending. Some shrines still exist, bazaars they're called, low, crumbling domes in the middle of nowhere. People visit them to beg for children, or healing, or to curse a rival. They light candles, bury chicken bones, tie coins to sheep wool. In Samarkand, where turquoise tiles shimmer like water, locals tell stories of jinn, spirits made of smokeless fire. Some are kind, most are not. People warn you not to speak too loudly in abandoned places, not to look too long at mirrors after midnight, not to pick up coins off the ground, because they might be a test left by a jinn who's watching. In modern cities, these beliefs are laughed off, but in the quiet places where shadows outnumber people, no one dares to disobey. Here, science never quite replaced the spirits. They just learn to live together. Beauty in Uzbekistan doesn't always follow the rules you're used to. Here, it isn't about being skinny or tanned or filtered. It's about tradition and sometimes about control. In rural regions, especially among older generations, the ideal Uzbek woman is modest, soft-spoken, and pure. But there's one physical feature that outsiders often find surprising: the monobrow. Yes, thick, connected eyebrows were once seen as the ultimate sign of feminine beauty in Uzbekistan. Not something to tweeze, but something to grow with pride. In the past, girls with thin or separated brows would even use crushed herbs or charcoal to draw a unibrow across their forehead. In weddings, mothers would brush the brows upward with a special oil, believed to make them fuller. Why? Because it was said to bring luck and to symbolize a woman's strength, fertility, and ability to keep her husband loyal. Even today, in regions like Khorezm or Kyzylkum, some families still admire this look, not for fashion, but for what it means. But there's a shift happening. In cities like Tashkent and Samarkand, the rise of social media is changing everything. Younger women are blending tradition with TikTok. You'll see girls in headscarves doing makeup tutorials, Influencers showing off eyelash extensions and highlighted cheekbones, but still dressing conservatively because modesty is still the rule. Clothing is another battleground. Western brands are growing in popularity, but outside the malls, the long tunic and loose pants, called a kurtka and shalvar, still dominate. A girl might wear skinny jeans at a party, but cover her hair before entering a cafe if she thinks someone from the family might see her. Beauty here is a constant negotiation between freedom and fear. For men, the standards are simpler but stricter. A handsome Uzbek man is expected to be tall, quietly confident, well-groomed, and financially secure. Too much flash is frowned upon. Too many piercings? Suspicious. Cologne? Acceptable if it smells like power, not seduction. And if you're wondering what happens when tourists arrive, especially solo women, the answer is complex. Foreign women are often seen as mysterious and, in some cases, morally looser due to cultural stereotypes. That curiosity can turn romantic or condescending. It's not uncommon for local men to try and charm foreign visitors, especially if they speak a bit of English or Russian. But underneath every compliment is the weight of expectation. In Uzbekistan, beauty has always been about more than just appearance. It's about what you represent to your family, to your religion, to your gender, and whether you accept that or break it. Behind the silk and spices, the turquoise domes, and the friendly smiles, Uzbekistan hides a history soaked in blood, control, and contradiction. One man in particular cast a long, brutal shadow over this region. Timur, known in the West as Tamerlane. To locals, he's still a hero. To historians, he was a warlord, drenched in gore. Timur built an empire from the bones of his enemies. He once constructed a tower out of 70,000 severed skulls after conquering Isfahan in modern-day Iran. His army swept across Asia like a plague, crushing cities, enslaving artisans, and leaving behind glittering mosques over mass graves. But he wasn't a barbarian. Timur saw himself as a patron of culture and religion. He brought architects, astronomers, and poets to Samarkand. He wanted to build a capital that would rival the heavens, a killer with taste, a visionary with blood on his hands. Centuries later, the violence returned, not with swords, but with flags. Uzbekistan was absorbed into the Soviet Union. Its identity was stripped, its language rewritten, its borders redrawn. Under Stalin, the country became a cotton plantation for Moscow. The Soviets forced monoculture farming on a mass scale, draining the Aral Sea, once the world's fourth largest lake, until it turned into a toxic desert. What's left today is the Kyzylkum, a vast dead zone of sand and salt, where abandoned ships sit like rusted tombstones, and the wind carries the poison of forgotten ambition. And then came Islam Karimov. From 1989 until his death in 2016, Karimov ruled Uzbekistan with an iron grip, a modern despot who made fear the foundation of his regime. Dissent was crushed, opposition parties were banned, and in 2000 in the city of Andijan, something unthinkable happened. Thousands of protesters, men, women, children, gathered in the city square, demanding economic reform and the release of 23 businessmen accused of Islamic extremism. The government's response? Bullets. Eyewitnesses say troops opened fire without warning. Hundreds, possibly more than 1,000 people were killed. The regime called it a fight against terrorism. The world called it a massacre. But even today, most Uzbeks don't speak of it. Not because they don't care, because they're afraid. The secret police may have changed uniforms, but the culture of surveillance remains. Criticize the government too loudly, and you might find your phone tapped, or your passport revoked, or your family visited in the middle of the night. This is the paradox of Uzbekistan, a land of hospitality and warmth, wrapped in centuries of silence and control. Behind every ancient monument stands a ghost. Behind every official smile, a warning. Uzbekistan may not appear on travel bucket lists, but its landscapes are some of the most unforgiving and unforgettable on Earth. The country is almost entirely landlocked, but not just landlocked, doubly landlocked. That means every nation surrounding Uzbekistan is also landlocked, making the nearest ocean a distant dream. This extreme isolation shapes more than just maps, it shapes mentality. The result is a landscape and a culture untouched in ways that feel both sacred and unsettling. Much of Uzbekistan is swallowed by the Kyzylkum Desert. Its name means red sand, but it could just as well mean endless silence. This isn't a rolling dune desert like the Sahara. It's jagged, cracked, and hostile. Sparse tufts of brush struggle through scorched soil. Dust devils spin like angry spirits on the horizon. But it gets worse, because where there was once water, now there is none. The Aral Sea, once a shimmering inland ocean between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, has become one of the greatest environmental disasters in human history. In the 1960s, Soviet engineers diverted the rivers feeding the Aral Sea to irrigate cotton fields. At first, it was hailed as progress. By the 1980s, the sea had lost half its size. By the 2000s, it was almost gone. Today, satellites show what locals already know: a vast cracking seabed where once there were ships and fishermen. An eerie plain of sand and salt, called the Kyzylkum Desert, stretching across the ghost of a sea. Villages that once sat on beaches are now stranded 100 kilometers from the waterline. Fishing boats lie rusted in the dirt, and children grow up breathing air poisoned by the toxic dust kicked up from the dry seabed. There are places in Uzbekistan where the land feels cursed, like Vozrojdeniya Island, once part of the Aral Sea. During the Cold War, it became a secret Soviet biological weapons testing site. Anthrax, plague, smallpox, all weaponized, all hidden. After the sea receded, Vozrojdeniya wasn't an island anymore. It became accessible by land and dangerously exposed. Locals don't go there, and neither should you. But it's not all desolation. In the east, near the Fergana Valley, Uzbekistan shows another face. Snow-capped mountains cradle fertile plains. Orchards bloom. Rivers pulse with life. It's almost like the land remembers what it once was, before borders, before collapse. These contrasts define Uzbekistan, a land of deserts and rivers, a place that gives with one hand and punishes with the other. Despite its ancient customs and closed past, Uzbekistan is quietly tiptoeing into the 21st century. In cities like Tashkent and Samarkand, younger generations are navigating a silent revolution, one shaped not by protests or politics, but by dating apps and secret chats. While the country remains socially conservative, particularly in rural regions, the veil is beginning to slip. Platforms like Tinder and Telegram are used discreetly and often under false names to avoid judgment from family or community. A double life isn't just common, it's survival. Women especially face steep cultural pressure. Virginity is still taboo defining, and even whispers of improper behavior can have real-world consequences. But behind closed doors, change is happening. Private apartments, hidden cafes, and weekend getaways to neighboring Kazakhstan or Kyrgyzstan become escapes, brief windows of freedom in a place that rarely allows it. As for tourism, Uzbekistan isn't your classic paradise. There are no all-inclusive beach resorts, no nightclub districts, but there is something else. Mystique. The kind of allure that appeals to digital nomads, thrill seekers, and travelers tired of Instagram-perfect cities. They come for the Silk Road ruins, for the Islamic architecture, for the ghost towns of the Aral Sea. Some leave with more than photographs. It's not uncommon for foreigners, particularly men, to develop relationships with locals. Some are genuine. others transactional. Uzbekistan, for all its order and etiquette, is not immune to shadow economies. Foreign currency speaks loudly, especially in regions where wages are low and opportunities scarcer still. But don't be mistaken, what exists here is subtle, quiet, behind the veil. It's a country where everything public must remain pristine and everything forbidden underground. Uzbekistan is not flashy. It doesn't beg for attention. It whispers, a desert heartland with blood in its sand and secrets in its shrines. Place where history is carved in turquoise domes and erased by Soviet bulldozers. It is conservative, mysterious, repressed, and rebellious under the surface. From bride kidnappings to pagan superstitions, from monobrow beauty to radioactive deserts, from ancient Silk Road traders to digital age double lives, Uzbekistan isn't just a country, it's a contradiction wrapped in silence. So we ask you, would you dare to walk its ghost shores? Would you trust a smile behind a veil? Drop your answer in the comments. And if this strange hidden world fascinated you, don't just watch. Subscribe and help us keep uncovering the dark corners of the planet that others are too afraid or too polite to show you. We'll see you in the next forbidden place.